I'm Cliff Grossner. I'm with IHS Markit. And today we're going to talk a little bit about automation. And whenever I do one of these sessions, I try to always give the audience a little snip of some of the data we have at our firm and some of the visions that we see. And so what I wanted to share with everyone is that it's pretty clear to us and in all the discussions we're in that when we think of automation, the underlying technologies that we're going to need to integrate into how we do things are going to be artificial intelligence techniques, methods for machine learning, and also moving to more of a DevOps culture. And that is going to be the theme for some of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to share with you some of the data points we have that I think may be interesting to you. First of all, let's talk about our roadmap for Telco Cloud. And we've all been following this market for many years, where we had the market lift off. We had early deployments and proof of concepts around Telco and Telco NFV and SDN and the Telco network, and even SDN in the data center in the 2015-2016 timeframe. We then saw products mature. We actually sized the market now and have quite a few millions of dollars that are spent on SDN and NFV every year. Productions are getting large. We're seeing large deployments with many nodes and many devices come into play. We've had the idea that Telco Cloud not only is going to go mainstream, but it's also going to redefine the edge, giving the service providers a chance to honestly get back in the game after the over-the-top players took away much of the data center market earlier this century. And then the next phase really is going to be focusing on some of the new techniques coming out of Google around machine learning and how do we bring some of the AI work that was done 30 years ago into the mainstream, now that we have enough data and now that we have enough compute power to make it possible. And when we look at digital transformation and automation, what I've been talking about is really all of these elements coming together from where automation really becomes a key enabler towards the digital service provider. And okay, enough with the philosophy. Let's put some real data on the table. So as in my team, we look at data center servers. So these are servers that today, for the most part, are in a centralized data center, but are going to flow to the edge as we move out and deploy edge computing and start to compute in a very distributed way. And what we did is we looked at the market, we talked to many vendors, we talked to end users, and we decided it was time to provide a view of what % of servers will include silicon for AI and ML. That is coprocessors that can be used for highly parallel compute. At the same time, stripping out the workloads that were typically going to be deployed for virtualization or visualization, sorry. And so what we came to was around 10% of servers shipped in 2022 will include some sort of silicon for AI and machine learning. And the majority of the silicon will be of the GPU type, followed by FPGAs. So it becomes real. Once you start to hit 10% of servers having specialized hardware, that's when we consider something has gone mainstream, out of the hands of the early adopters and onto build the main market. And that's what we feel we're going to hit by 2022. And by the way, this compute will partially be deployed at the edge. So this will include silicon that may be embedded in UCPE devices and other devices that end up at the edge. The other thing that I wanted to press upon everyone is how we're doing with container software. There's been a lot of hype. We probably hear about container software almost every day in our industry. So much so that it could blind us to the fact that right now, when we look at the deployment of software containers, it's less than 10% of servers that are actually using containers to allow multiple applications to run on them. So the hype is really much bigger than the reality today. But that's part of our job, right, is to do a fact check. What we are projecting for 2022 is that it is going to grow, and that we should be at about 16% of servers that are multi-tenant, that is running multiple applications, through use of containers rather than hypervisors. And so I want to leave you with 3 takeaways, as my 5 minutes are more than up. One is zero-touch networks are going to leverage AI. Probably we already knew that. Now we know also that about 10% of servers are going to have some silicon to support that in them by 2022, and I'm talking shipments in 2022. And then, of course, DevOps. Let's not get fooled by the hype, but at the same time, let's not pretend it's not happening. So it is happening. It just may not be happening at the same pace that the hype is making us believe. Okay, with that, I think that's all for me.